Happy Monday. I'm here to bring you your daily mental health enlightenment. And today we are going to discuss anxiety and panic. Anxiety and panic has been on my heart, and I'm trying to be more obedient to the things that come into my spirit. So there must be some people out there who follow me who need to hear about anxiety and panic. So here we go. 1, why is anxiety and panic an important topic to discuss? The biggest reason is because this condition is such a debilitating condition. And it's debilitating because it can literally freeze and immobilize a person. There are irrational fears that come along with anxiety that cause a person to be unable to live their life, to engage in the normal activities that they even want to engage in, but they can't because they're wrapped up in fears. So let's go back. What is anxiety? Anxiety is fear and worry about the future. And with that comes racing thoughts where you can't slow your mind down. You're constantly thinking. Excessive thoughts where you're thinking about a number of things at one time. So in one moment, you may have 10 thoughts going through your head. There's a ruminating thought process that happens that just means that you continue to think about and ruminate on the same thought over and over again. You might create a plan and then rethink that same plan and recreate it, and then create that plan one more time. So you ruminate on that same thing over and over again. And then there are snowballing thoughts, which are thoughts that start with a small idea or thought, and then they just snowball and get bigger and bigger and bigger until they become this big irrational thought that really isn't connected to reality, that really isn't a plausible thought or fear. And so with all of those thought processes that we have, we typically end up developing these irrational fears that, again, serve to stop us from living and engaging in the activities that we want to participate in. What makes anxiety so hard is, like many other mental health conditions, it's an invisible condition that people can't see. So people always question, what's going on with you? Why are you talking so much? Why are you thinking so much? Why do you have so many fears? Why do you worry so much? Why are you even bringing that up? How did you get to that thought? And for people who deal with anxiety, their thought processing feels normal, and so they can feel outcasted when people call them out like that. But in addition to it being invisible and people not knowing that inside of my mind, I literally have a million things that I'm trying to manage. So I'm really not scattered, or I'm really not making a big deal out of things. These are all the thoughts running through my head. On top of it being invisible, the thoughts and fears that a person with anxiety has are often unable to be rationalized at times, and that can be hard. Unlike a condition like depression, for instance, where, okay, someone is sad and depressed, there's typically a trigger that pushes them into feeling sad. Even though we may not understand why their depression is so extreme, we can typically at least see what pushed them into a depressed state. But when someone experiences anxiety, oftentimes they've never had a tragedy related to what they fear. So let's talk about some of the common fears that people with anxiety and panic experience. Fear of the public, fear of leaving their house, just this impending sense of doom and that harm is going to come their way, and that the safest place that they can be is in their own home. Fears of riding in cars is a big one. Along with that, fears of driving on the interstate, fears of driving across bridges. And I can't tell you how many people I meet who say, I used to have no problem driving on the interstate. Now I'm horribly afraid of it. Or now I have these visions that when I'm driving on a bridge, I feel like I'm going to fly off. They've never had anything horrible happen while they're driving, while they're on the bridge, while they're on the freeway, but they have just this irrational fear that something bad will happen. People have fears of going to places that are crowded, such as the stores, and so they'll say, I try to go late at night. I go at midnight, 1 o'clock at night when no one else is going to be there because I get such anxiety being out in public. People talk about about being out in public around crowds of people and just feeling as if random people that they don't know may be plotting to harm them, may be plotting to harm their children. And so they have these irrational fears. And again, it's so hard because one, it's invisible, so no one can see how stressful and how persistent those fears are in that person's mind. But two, you can't make sense of why are you afraid of that? You don't know that man. So why are you afraid that that man is going to harm you? And see, the thing with anxiety too is it's an ever-growing condition. So what I found is that anxiety normally starts with one small fear or worry that gets unaddressed, that's unresolved, and then it just continues to grow and grow and grow. And people begin to develop all of these odd, unexplained fears about things that they typically didn't fear. Like I said, riding in cars and driving is one of the most common that I see, and it causes people so much distress because if they can't drive places, they can't get to places, and then they can't engage in life. But it typically comes from some a deeply seated fear that they have that they never dealt with, and now it's just grown and it's spewed itself all over the place. And then it becomes immobilizing, because if that person has a fear of leaving their house and going outside, then they're not able to engage in life. That person has a fear of getting in their car and going somewhere, they can't engage in life. If they have a fear of being around large crowds of people, they can't engage in activities in life. And so it really immobilizes their ability to engage in life. Imagine parents of children who can't go to their child's school for a parent-teacher conference or for a sports activity because of the fear that they have. Imagine a man who once worked and supported his family, but now is unable to bring himself to leave his home in order to go to work. Or if they get to work, they can't stay at work because of the fear. Or what about the woman who can get to her high-powered job, but when she gets to the 34th floor building, she can't get on the elevator to get to the 28th floor where her office is. These are all real life examples from people who struggle with this stuff. And I'm sure that there are some of you out there who struggle with this on the mild end, on the moderate portion, and on the severe end. And wherever you are on the spectrum of all of this, I want you to know that there is help. You can treat this. So there are two main ways that I want to talk about just quickly. One is therapy. Being able to go to therapy and identify what is the deep-seated anxiety and worry that you hold inside of you that has grown and spewed into this bigger, a general sense of anxiety and panic. Was it as a kid, not having your parents be there as they should, and so you constantly had this fear of not being safe or taken care of, and that is what's driving all of this? Is it that you were involved as a teenager or a young adult in an abusive relationship, and so fear and worry from being in that relationship was implanted within you, and now you carry that around in you, and it's spewed and turned into this anxiety and panic that you can't get rid of? And those were just two examples. But whatever it is, it's important to get to therapy and identify what that underlying fear and worry is so that you can deal with it and resolve it. And then slowly begin to face each one of your fears while having the support of a therapist to hold your hand through it. And then after you face each one of those fears, what we do is reality check. So whatever fear you had about going into the store at 4:00 p.m., we say, did that happen? No, it didn't. And you start to replace the irrational fears with the reality of what happened. No. After you've developed this anxiety and fear, you went and did this and faced this, and it didn't happen. So you begin to reconstruct your reality. The second thing is medication. And medication can certainly help with controlling the thoughts, controlling the frequency and excessiveness of your thinking, controlling them getting out of hand, being able to control those fears, helping you to see a circumstance realistically without introducing those fears into it. But either way, what you want to do is figure out what is that deep-seated fear that has spun out of control. And then if I need some medication to manage and quiet that in my mind, getting that too. All right, I hope that you have enjoyed the video today. And what is the message? To think about mental health in a different way, a way that helps you to understand that your anxiety does not have to control you. And I'll see you tomorrow.